It's the Shiftheads podcast. I'm Shane Hewitt. Our guest, Steve Stebbing, is here. What the hell should we watch this week? Well, it's Christmas movies, Steve. That's all we should watch is nonstop Christmas shows.
Yeah, that's what I'm being told that it should be nothing but Christmas movies. And you know what? If I'm being honest, on the Shift Heads group, I was asked by Marilee Sharp if I have a Christmas list. I mean, in the shift past, I have brought Christmas
Yep.
movies, or we've kind of reiterated what our favorite Christmas movies. And I just kind of said what I've been saying kind of for the last few weeks here. The Holdovers is your Christmas movie this year if you're looking at 2023. But what do you look at when it comes to Christmas? Like, is it holiday viewing for you, or is it just kind of like staple stuff?
No, yeah, I just love Christmas, right? So, I mean, I'm the guy that watches Christmas Vacation in July so I can get my fix until Christmas comes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, Elf is a must have. That's going to get watched on Christmas
Mm.
Eve. It's always Christmas Vacation. The one that came out on Apple with Ryan Reynolds last year, Spirited.
Yes.
Yeah, that one to me, I mean, that's a new ad for the Christmas routine, 100%. And the Hannah Waddingham special
Hmm.
on Apple
Hmm.
Plus. I mean, Mel and I watched that. I've already watched it once. Mel and I go turn it on, watch it on together on FaceTime because we weren't in
Hmm.
the same room. And she's sitting there and I'm sitting there, we're smiling, just watching the whole special. So yeah, I guess a little bit of all of the above. That's fair.
Yeah, because I mean, I have my off the beaten path movies. Like I brought up The Green Knight before. I love Die Hard. It's a Christmas movie. I don't care what Bruce Willis said. It's a Christmas movie. The writer says it's a Christmas movie, so he gets the final say, in my opinion. And then there was that movie last year with Badass Santa, played by David Harbour,
Yeah.
Violent Night.
Mm-hmm.
I still dig that one. So I don't know. Like I still will sit for Elf and stuff and Christmas Vacation because they are absolute classics. Scrooge, which is now on 4K this year, another really, really, really great one. Yeah, there's so many really good ones. So much that as soon as we stop recording this, we'll be like, oh yeah, that one
That
and
one.
that
Well,
one
there's the
and
new
that
Eddie
one and
Murphy
that one.
one, right? I
Yeah.
haven't, that one hasn't won me over yet. I don't
Candy
know.
Cane Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
on Prime right now.
So I like all of these are there, and then there's the ones that are coming out over Christmas time, which includes
Hmm.
the Top Gun Maverick show, which is coming out on the streaming services. They're starting to hook coming soon, all that stuff, right? So
Hmm.
they're going to try to steal that thunder, if you will. I don't know. It's a special time. I absolutely love it. Now, stevestebbing.ca, if you want to follow along with Steve, I'm Shane Hewitt, shiftheads.ca for the Shifthead group, and get in the conversation there. And so some staples for movies, yes. All year, though, we have something that we've done on the radio show for the past bunch of years, and I would like to do it next week. So Christmas homework, if you're up for it, it's the Stebby Awards.
Oh, I am so ready for this because this would be the third
Third, I
annual.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, third time's a charm. I'm super excited about it. Um, with the ending of the show, the selfish part of me was like, oh no, the Stebbies. So
That's what
I'm
Ryan and I said the same thing. We didn't get to do the Stebbies.
right. We didn't get to go out on that 2023 year. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Also to give people kind of over the holidays, like, hey, what should I check out that I haven't checked out this year? So that'll be all contained in the Stebbies for sure.
Very cool. So the Stebbies, if you don't know, they are like the Oscars of Steve Stebbing for the best movies of the year. It's how we're going to finish the year. So it'll be on the Shiftheads podcast coming up next week. Now, trying something differently here this week on the Shiftheads podcast. What the hell should we watch? Let's get into it. Any hooks for what's the information that you've got coming up?
Well, this week I gave my full review for Wonka after kind of giving you a little tease of it last week. A lot of new releases, like Five Nights at Freddy's is now on 4K. The Psych complete series. I'm very excited to show this one off. A lot of remasters. We're talking like Casino, Pollock, Backdraft. And I give a little tease for next week, which may or may not have Jason Momoa in it.
Okay, there it is. What the hell should we watch this weekend? Now for you on the Shiftheads podcast with Steve Stebbing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing, and you might be listening to this or seeing this through the Shiftheads podcast with Shane Hewitt, and I thank you for checking it out. But if you're checking it out on my YouTube page, I doubly thank you for actually landing on this page, liking and subscribing. I'll ask you to do it again at the end of the video if you haven't already. Let's start with Wonka. I teased it last week with Shane, and I hadn't seen it yet, and now I have seen it, and I'm not a musical guy. I have to get that up first and foremost. Really don't like musicals, but this one won me over, and I have to say that it's probably because of Timothée Chalamet, but above that, you have to thank the puppeteer, which is Paul King, who did Paddington and Paddington 2, and this is him exploring a new IP, one that I was probably casting a lot of hate at the time, being that I love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I love Gene Wilder's version of this character. Timothée Chalamet has the charisma to pull this one off, though. His singing charm and everything is there in all the musical moments. Some of the songs work, some of them are a little iffy for me, but that's the whole musical aversion at its core. But I've had a lot of fun with this movie. Hugh Grant is a really great Oompa Loompa. He probably would hate to hear that because apparently he didn't have a great time making it. Olivia Colman is in this one, kind of doing some villainy role. Matt Lucas is a villain in this one. People may know him from Little Britain or The Great British Bake Off. I think he's a judge on that show as well. And it's just got a lot going for it that really works out in the end. So another win for Paul King. I don't think it'll be celebrated as much as Paddington or Paddington 2, but time will tell. So far, just a $35 million opening weekend, which I think what was projected for it anyways. So it did well there. Next up, and my kid would be really excited to know that I'm talking about this, is I got the 4K of Five Nights at Freddy's. And this is a long gestated video game adaptation that fans have been clamoring for a long time. As I believe, Five Nights at Freddy's is a game series that relies on a lot of jump scares in its storytelling. And it tries to pull that off in this film, but as a horror fan, as a deep-seated horror fan, the first real kill in this movie doesn't come until like 40 minutes into the film. So I felt like that's a little long in the tooth to be waiting for kind of something to kick off. But it's got Josh Hutcherson in it, who I really like. Matthew Lillard, who was an all-time favorite. We're going back to 94 with Hackers on that one. Like, I'm just such a huge fan of him. And he's so maniacal and over the top in this one. But the production value, I gotta give its due here, because all of the creatures, Freddy Fazbear and the rest of his crew, are all done by the Jim Henson Company. So all these murderous creatures have all been created by one of the most imagination-filled workshops that we could ever grow up with in our minds, doing some horror. So hopefully we see the Jim Henson Company branch out a bit more with this one, because we do, as far as I've seen Jason Blum say on Twitter, we're getting another one. So bring it on, I guess. All right, we're gonna get some classic ones because I got some reissues here. One was the remastered edition of Casino, which is really cool to watch in 2023. After the masterpiece that is Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese's latest film, which adapted by a book by David Graff, I think will be the big front runner as far as Academy Awards go. But to kind of go back to the 90s and watch his Nicholas Pileggi adaptation Casino is a neat breath of fresh air again. I haven't seen this movie in clear over a decade, and I used to watch it a lot in the 90s and 2000s. I really dug this film a lot, and I think it still holds up. De Niro's great. Sharon Stone has possibly never been better. Like, she is so damn good in this movie. Joe Pesci is just incredible in this film. I really love him in this film, and just what a sad demise. I mean, spoilers if you haven't seen this film, but it did come out in the mid 90s, so I feel like the statute is up. But Joe Pesci has an epic death scene in this one, so I would check that one out. The other one that's brand new is Pollock. This is the biopic about Jackson Pollock, played by Ed Harris. But he also directed this film as well, and it definitely earned a lot of awards clout at the time. For me, the money in this movie is Marcia Gay Harden, who I feel like never gets the recognition that she should. But Pollock is one of my favorite performances out of her. Another one would be Whip It, the Drew Barrymore's directorial debut. Dig that one up because it's a great one. But Pollock, to see it on like a remastered Blu-ray transfer, I dig it. And it's a film that I never appreciated at its time, but I definitely appreciate it now because I definitely appreciate Ed Harris a lot more than I did. Another one, this one's going to be strictly for the kids or for the parents that grew up in this generation that want to indoctrinate their kids with some of the classic cartoons. But the Looney Tunes Collector's Choice Volume 2 is now out and available for everyone to pick up, especially if you've picked up Volume 1. You're going to want to complete the collection. I mean, all the favorites that are there. I mean, you got Tweety and Sylvester, you have Elmer Fudd, of course, Bugs Bunny, Foghorn Leghorn, all of that stuff, and in its pristine glory, remastered and re-uploaded into this Blu-ray format. So not a lot to say there. I mean, Looney Tunes is Looney Tunes, so if you're into that kind of stuff, I highly recommend picking up Volume 2. And it really looks nice next to my Volume 1, if I'm being honest about it. All right, and this is a weird one, this next one, because it's a Ben Kingsley movie that didn't get a lot of recognition, didn't get a lot of push, and it has him playing kind of like a weird recluse who is always complaining to the town council and everything. He's kind of the weirdo of the town. So when an alien crash lands in his yard, of course the rest of the town takes it as just another crazy thing that he's saying, except for two women who eventually form a friendship with his character with this new alien creature, which is so close to a Grayling looking, like almost blank features and everything, that they name Jules. And it's not a movie that honestly I think anyone would just click on as far as the streaming service goes, if it popped up on Netflix or Crave or Prime Video. But in my journey of reviewing everything, I had to watch this one. So I ended up watching it with my my mom and my aunt and the rest of my family, and we all really kind of dug it and liked the charm that it had going for it. It goes off the beaten path in a couple interesting ways that I really got behind. It's not a movie that's going to be like the best of 2023 or something that you feel like you need to cram in within this year to feel like a completionist as far as award scope goes, because it's not going to be anywhere close to that. But I will say that if you've come across it streaming or renting or anything like that, a free way, or if someone just throws you a Blu-ray or a DVD of it, it's well worth checking out. So I enjoyed Jules for the most part. All right, we're going to go with the Warner Brothers archive release that I was sent, and this is Mad City. So this is another movie that came out in the 90s, but I mean, this was also during that rise in John Travolta's career, and it's a really interesting thriller that I really ended up digging a lot. And Dustin Hoffman is a big reason why I like this film, and especially in a day and age where we don't really get a lot of Dustin Hoffman films anymore. So going back to the early, mid, and late 90s to see films like Hero or Outbreak or this film, Mad City, is a really cool refresher, and maybe it'll give it a little bit newer life on the shelf if people see this in their bargain bin and want to pick it up. But it's directed by Costa Gavras, and I just really like to say his name because I should really research the guy. Was he ever billed by a first name? But I don't know. Anyway, he directs this film. I think this was the last major film that I think I remember him making was this film. And I mean, just a solid film, not too long, doesn't overstay its welcome at all. And Dustin Hoffman rocks in this film. Travolta's kind of standard, like just how you would expect him, especially in this point in his career, because this was mid to late 90s, so he's kind of owning what made him repopular again. But Dustin Hoffman just rocks. So Mad City is worth rechecking out, in my opinion. All right, next up, I got a hell of a box set here. It's just beauty, and it is the complete collection of Psych. I mean, this is 8 seasons. 8 seasons of a show that ran on USA for a long time and had definitely a cult following going with it. Like, people really, really, really love this this show. And I love Dule Hell, and I love Sean. What's his name again? James Rode. There we go. I was going to say his character name. His name's James Rode. Him and Dule Hill are such a great tandem team. Dule Hill, I believe a lot of people mainstream would know him from West Wing, I want to say. But I mean, he did 8 seasons of great work on this one. There's 3 additional movies in this. It is such a geek out for me because there is a full-on Twin Peaks ode episode. I mean, Cheryl Lee's in the episode, Ray Wise is in the episode. A handful of other Twin Peaksers appear in that episode, and that just warms my weird little heart, along with the log lady. Just makes it all homey and nice in there. And I don't know, any show that digs the weird and latches on to a weird audience, I'm definitely behind. So to get this entire set, yeah, I'm totally jacked about it. All right, new one this week on Blu-ray is a film out of China called The Wandering Earth 2. And this is a sequel to the 2019 film, The Wandering Earth. But this is actually a prequel film. So to give you a bit of a backstory, I crash course through both of these films. So I watched Wandering Earth, and then I watched Wandering Earth 2 last night. And The Wandering Earth is basically the Earth is in peril of being burnt out by the sun within 100 years. So the world enacts a united Earth government to orchestrate 10,000 cities to build an underground city, as well as these massive turbines that will stop the Earth's rotation and then use it at the Earth as like a spaceship to go 4.6 light years to find another star to base around it as the sun. It's a ridiculously crazy story that I don't even think Roland Emmerich or Dean Devlin could ever think up in their Independence Day days. Like, it's just not in their wheelhouse. It's so crazy. The special effects are so out there and really well done. Like, the Chinese definitely put a lot of effort in this one. My biggest issue, I mean, with the first film and in the second film as well, is there's so many characters I lose track of who is alive, who's dead, what their purpose is. Like, it feels like a lot of people like do things, get saved, and as soon as they get saved, they get killed. And I was just wondering where the purpose of that lies. And then my second gripe is that the second film is a prequel. I felt like I should have watched the second film first and then jumped into the second film, and then actually would have found it more interesting, and it would have made sense more. Maybe I would have had a better handle on some of the characters. I just feel like they expected you to take in a lot of story in here, and just when you're trying to make sense of it, it doesn't all match up. It looks gorgeous though, but it doesn't match up. And I will say this, they're both films. The first film is like 2 hours and 17 minutes or something like that. The second film is damn near 2 hours long. And doing those movies back to back is a little punishing. All right, let's get some Geek Outs to finish all of this off. These would usually reside on the What the Hell Should I Watch segment with Shane Hewitt in the section where I just kind of bring some older stuff that I really wanted to nerd out with the listeners and the viewers about. So that's exactly what this is. The first one is Pussy Riot Putin's Plague. So this is a power punk band out of Russia that has proven over and over again to be a thorn in Vladimir Putin's side. And they've been jailed multiple times, but they still come out and they still have that same drive and that same verve to take on probably the world's greatest villain at this point. Like, if we're going to put anybody into a box, we have to kind of say that Putin has been acting like a villain. So these girls aren't going away. So that's more of the same with this documentary continuing on, that the Pussy Riot is going to run roughshod over Putin and his regime, and they won't stop until they are kicked out of the country, maybe for good. Who knows? But documentaries like this, especially documentaries about uprising and everything, I find absolutely fascinating. And this one hits the nail on the head. And plus, I didn't really know a whole bunch about Pussy Riot. So I dig that this one kind of gives you some of that info, because they're very interesting ladies. The next two are both remasters, much like the Pollock one and the Casino one I talked about earlier. But this first one, Backdraft, I mean, has there ever been a firefighter film that has been so well put together and so memorable? Like, I feel kids of my age and maybe a bit older, we know this film. I mean, the cast alone in it was crazy. Billy Baldwin, Kurt Russell. I mean, it just, and one of my favorite performances in such a very short performance, Donald Sutherland as a convicted arsonist. His demeanor in this, like all of his years of being a character actor, just bleed into this performance, and it is the one thing that I think of anytime that movie is brought up. It is one of Ron Howard's best films. I mean, a director who has a career of great films, but Backdraft is one of the best films, possibly his best film in the 90s. Comment below if you disagree with me on this one or have something else to bring up, like Parenthood or something like that, that would be your favorite, or maybe Apollo 11, Apollo 13, Apollo 13, Apollo 13. I got it right, Apollo 13. So, but Backdraft, I think, is got to be one of his career bests, in my opinion. The other film is Carlito's Way. Brian De Palma. There's something about Brian De Palma and his filmmaking that has been captivating for a long time, but he lost that edge some point in the 90s, I would say Snake Eyes and after. But Carlito's Way has it all going on. This film is awesome, and awesome still. Al Pacino is so incredible in it. One of my favorite Pacino performances of his later career. Sean Penn, I mean, his character was lampooned from this film into the Grand Theft Auto series with Vice City. Like the whole look, the receding hairline, curly hair, sunglass look, like that whole thing was replicated for Vice City. Like there are things about this game, this movie, that continued on to the zeitgeist, like that leech onto it. John Leguizamo is incredible in this. Louis Guzman, like there's such a great core to this film. And honestly, when it comes to Brian De Palma movies, I feel like Carlito's Way needs to be given its flowers a bit more, because it really did inspire a whole shitload of other crime stories and everything. So especially like the guy just comes back into the town and then his whole world just kind of crashes in on him again, and fatally so. Spoilers. Anyways. So let's finish off with another preview like I did with Wonka last week. We'll do a preview this week, and the movie this week is Aquaman and the Seven Kingdoms, a film that has been a long time in the gestation, not just in being made, but then they made it, and then they sat on it, and then they're probably doing all this editing, you would think, to cut around the fact that the DC universe is basically ending in this format after this film. Like, there is little chance that Jason Momoa will be Aquaman beyond this. You would think that they had to do some cutting around Amber Heard, just due to the trial, the Johnny Depp trial and everything, and that she wasn't exactly the most liked person in Hollywood. But then James Wan says that that's not exactly the case, that Amber wasn't a big part of this story to begin with, which I find really hard to believe, because she plays Mara, which is the main love interest to Arthur, Jason Momoa's character, the love of his life. They have a baby, which you see in the trailer. So I don't know what heads or tails to make of this movie. I haven't heard any sort of here nor there of whether it's good or not, whether anybody's seen it. There's no advance word on it. It's a blank slate. I enjoyed the first Aquaman film. I know a lot of people didn't. I had a fun time with it. in a DC cinematic universe, which I didn't have a lot of fun with most of the films, Aquaman worked. I like Jason Momoa. I really like Patrick Wilson, who plays Orm in this one. And I love Yahya Abdul Mateen III, who plays Black Manta. I love him a lot. I mean, Candyman, Matrix Resurrections, and he was great in the first film. And I mean, The Watchmen series that Damon Lindelof did for HBO, he was really great in that one. I will not even get into spoilers on that series because I still think people should watch that one. But I really dig him. So I don't know. What should I do? I'm thinking I'm just going to set the bar low, and I'll get back to you guys next week about how I feel about it. So that is it for me this week on What the Hell Should I Watch? You can find me on X and Instagram and Letterboxd under The Stevel Dead. I am also all over the Shiftheads Facebook group, so you can find me there and contact me there. And that's where you'll also find this one. You can find my website, stevestebbing.ca. And please, 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 if you're watching this on YouTube, like the page so you'll get notifications whenever these videos come out. Also, if you have any questions, type them down below and I will make sure that I will answer them on the following video. So when I see you, it'll be after Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And I'll see you next time on What the Hell Should I Watch?